And then we're gonna go with the 10 and the 9 and the 7 and 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome to What's the Gist? I'm your host, Matthew Swain, and I'm probably your teacher too, not just your host, your teacher. And today, usually we review some books that I recommend everybody should read, especially you. Today's topic I want to discuss is to focus on the themes found throughout our recent readings, like gratitude, overcoming adversity, and perseverance, to explore how we, the readers, can inspire to connect with these concepts on a personal level. In particular, I want to talk about the struggles in our lives and why it's not always the best to fight against our struggles, but rather to embrace them instead. This is your teacher talking. This is my words of wisdom. Take it or leave it. It's up to you. In Korean culture, we often encourage people to face a difficult challenging, but we say fighting. And actually, in Korean, we use the word fighting, the English word fighting, and we say it like that, fighting. This might be appropriate response for someone doing a school exam or preparing for a job interviewing. We say fighting. However, when a person is struggling through a big problem, responding with fighting is not always very fitting, is it? Fighting is the lowest form of conflict resolution, in my humble opinion. It's an approach to addressing our problems with force. And it's also, often who's the strongest. Fighting is what soldiers do. In war, it's what children may end up doing in the playground sometimes. And fighting is what football players do in overtime. Fighting is usually an option. It's a choice. And most of the time we can either choose to fight or flight. We can give up and run away from our problems. Some people do like to fight, and I get that. However, you say, be strong, fight. However, for most people, it's a very draining way to live. It shouldn't be a way of life. We don't always have to fight. We all have struggles sometime or another, but what if we told people to embrace it instead? Let me share with you a story of mine that explains, maybe shed some light into what I'm talking about embracing our struggles. Many times when I was living in Malawi, a long time ago, people would come up to me and ask for my help when someone was sick. Their families would send someone to my hut and ask me to go back with them to heal their loved ones. And since the nearest hospital or doctor were hundreds and thousands of miles away, people in the village nearby often had little other hope to find some care. And they hoped that maybe this white foreigner might be able to do something. And most of the times they were looking for a miracle. And I never knew what I could do to help, but I always went. And usually there was little that I could do, but I always listened to the families and listened to their concerns, and I offered some encouragement and prayed with them. Early one Sunday morning, a young boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, begged me to go see his father, who had such a terrible backache that he couldn't even get out of the bed and couldn't move. The problem was that the family lived in 3 villages away, and it was miles away, but I was supposed to speak in the afternoon during an assembly. But the boy seemed too anxious to wait, so I decided to borrow a bicycle, and I set off right away. The boy's father was suffering from a slipped vertebrae disc. And so after praying and after talking, I massaged his back to relax him, and then I pushed it back in. I know it was more survival first aid, but there it is, I did it. And then I applied some ointment, some tiger balm, and to ease the pain, and gave him some aspirin. I was happy because this time I could help, and the man would be fine. I told him so, and he thanked me. He thanked me profusely. I had little time to go back to my home to get ready for my afternoon, so I was in a hurry, and I refused the family's offer to have a meal with them and give me hospitality. However, as I was getting onto my bicycle, this little boy ran to me and handed me a gift. It was a dead rat. He was likely had caught it on his own, and he was going to cook it and eat it, but he wanted to give me something to show his appreciation. I had no time to refuse his gift, so I decided just to accept it gratefully, and I slipped it into my jacket pocket, and I was on my way. Later that evening, after I was done all my work, and I remembered I had this little furry gift in my pocket still, and I decided to give it a try. And I asked my neighbor if she would cook it for me. And I thought that if I was truly grateful, then I would not want to waste it. And so for supper that night, I ate rat. To be honest, it was terrible. Even with a little hot sauce, which was the only thing I had to put on top of it, it didn't taste good. Nevertheless, I was thankful to help the boy's father, and I was grateful for the boy's generosity, authentic generosity. I learned many lessons while I was in Malawi, but maybe most significant was what I learned about being grateful. I witnessed people were so poor, but they were so happy. And I couldn't understand it at first, because when I was younger, I always believed that the poorer people were, then the more happy and happier they must be. But what I saw was the exact opposite. These people were so grateful about the smallest things that most well-to-do people took for granted. And let's be honest, most of us fail to properly appreciate all the things that we have. The food, water, education, work, our health. We complain about it, we grumble about it. And why is it so hard for us to be grateful? Now, let's keep on being honest. Life is difficult. That's why it's difficult for us to be grateful. The world is often hard. I know it, and you know it. You know what I'm talking about. If you're a student, you're most likely spending all your time studying and worrying. If you're unemployed, you're most likely spending all your time and energy trying to find a good job and worrying. And if you have a job, when you do get a job, you're more likely struggling with too much work and stress and worrying about too much. And the same goes if you're single, if you're in a relationship, if you're a parent, if you have your own business, even if you're retired. Life is hard. Every stage of our life has its own potential hardships. Yet, for some reason, we want to believe that life shouldn't be that difficult. Life should be fair. Today I'm here to tell you, well, no, I'm not really here to tell you, but we read in our books that just because you're a good person doesn't mean you're going to have a life, it doesn't promise a life without trouble. You must know that you're never really alone when you have hard times, when you have these troubles. And there are people around you, in your school, in your family, if you're lucky, that has experienced whatever you've gone through. Maybe not exactly, but they know they had similar problems as you. And the world, you have to believe that the world doesn't take any joy in our pain. In truth, the people around us, most of the people around us, don't want us to suffer. As a teacher, I decided to intentionally greet all my students every day, either as they're coming or as they're leaving, peace be with you. It's not an original greeting, but I'm aware of the hard times that my students, that people around me are experiencing. And my wish for them is not to be troubled or worried, but instead I ask them to let some peace come in. Now, kiddos, friends, we can't stop the bad things from happening in our lives. However, we can focus on having peace in our lives and not suffering needlessly in our pain. You can still be upset, you can still be disappointed, you can be angry at the world around us for whatever you're experiencing. Life is often not fair. Living a good life, there's a trick to it. In my humble opinion, it demands that you have hope. However you want to call your personal beliefs about hope, that's cool. Hope in ourselves, in each other, and the world around us. To have faith in something that we can't see or feel, to have hope that the universe is good, and you know that you're not meant to be suffering alone. I know it's not easy. I know that too. And we see in the books we read and the stories that we read that not every hero goes through their challenges or their problems without shedding a tear of pity or suffering. I learned a Korean proverb I want to share with you. Dangjan mente aptida, which speaks to our trouble with experiencing peace and having hope. It literally means it's dark under the lamp. And generally, people don't realize what is right underneath their noses. We must learn to see and appreciate what's right here, right now, right in front of us. We don't have to feel alone when doubt and trouble creeps in and we get depressed and it threatens to hijack our hope. We can trust in ourselves and look at any possible help that's around us and weather the storm and eventually overcome it and any other obstacles that are in our way and endure our hardships. So hold on to all the hope that you can and have faith in the good times and the bad times. So if you're studying too hard, have faith and try to let some peace in you. No matter what hardship you're in right now, hold on to any hope that you can and let peace in. I hope we can continue having a conversation either in the comments or in our classrooms. And I ask you to consider, how do you see the themes in what you're reading when you come across gratitude or hopefulness, overcoming adversity and persevere? How do you see that in the books that you read, in the literature that you're reading right now? And what's your personal feelings about gratitude and hope? What about perseverance and overcoming adversity? Do you have a personal experience that you can share? I like to hear. Until next time, that's the gist of it.